Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, this is your captain speaking. Airplane microphone quality has returned. Welcome back to the cockpit, baby. The way I'm doing all of this is that I'm recording my voiceover stuff in GarageBand, so I'm going to continue experimenting with the settings and whatnot over time. It feels good to be back. Now then, onto the video. Puss in Boots from Shrek. I know him, you know him, your mom knows him. We've been growing up with this character for 2 decades now, from his debut in Shrek 2 to having 2 of his own spin-off movies. I'd like to say that after the release of The Last Wish earlier within this decade, and aside from serving as a soft reboot / revival, if you will, to the Shrek franchise, it's where I believe that the film received not just modern and critical acclaim for something regarding Puss in Boots, a character who was mostly seen as this kind of comic relief character in the Shrek films, but as well as garner interest from those who apparently missed out on previous Puss lore that came out long ago, if you will, and has nothing to do with him being in the Shrek films prior to the release of The Last Wish. And might as well add reigniting and rekindling our love and appreciation for the Shrek franchise. I mean, you guys, we're getting Shrek 5 next year. Let's think of it this way as an iceberg that I outlined. When it comes to Puss in Boots in recent years, or at least the way I see it, The Last Wish is just the tip of the iceberg. The 2011 Puss film is the body of the iceberg, and the key subject that we'll get into for this entire video is in the waters and bottom of the iceberg. So The Adventures of Puss in Boots is a show that exists, and being the Puss fanatic that I am since the 2011 film, because that film, well really both the 2011 film and The Last Wish, these films are where I show more of my love, interest, and appreciation for Puss the most as a character. But as I was saying, being the Puss fanatic that I am since the 2011 film, and prior to and even after seeing The Last Wish, this was a show that went over my radar. That was until I finally gave this show a watch, and oh boy, do I have a couple of things that I want to share with you in today's video. So this is a video that I've been wanting to make after posting my deep dive on the Puss spinoff Duology a couple months back, and after delaying production on this video a few times due to college and family and contemplating on how will I execute the overall presentation of this video, here we are, it's finally here. And right off the bat, if you're expecting me to break down every episode of this show, we would be here all day, and I don't think my laptop could handle every episode downloaded considering how much storage that I'm saving up. I'll share a few clips and screenshots from the show to at least diversify the content that will be presented throughout. I'm mostly going to show b-roll footage of me drawing art while I try my best to not get this video blocked due to copyright. Please do not get me started with how many attempts I had to get my Puss deep dive uploaded without getting blocked due to copyright.
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me!
So from there, I'll be doing a brief rundown about Puss and my history with him and his films, my experience with watching The Adventures of Puss in Boots, what's the show about, and discuss whether or not this show holds up regarding the Puss films. Now, because I won't cover every episode ever, this is where I ask you, my dear viewers, to get yourself the chance to watch the entirety of the show first and come back to this video later. If you're someone who's already seen the show, feel welcome to proceed ahead, or if you're someone who doesn't care for the show that much and you want to get my opinions on whether or not this show holds up to the Puss films, then feel also welcome to proceed ahead, and thanks for the views, I guess. That said, and apologies for being repetitive and redundant from when I say the only takeaways to get out from this video is the experience I had with this show and the opinion of whether or not this show holds up to the Puss films. With that being said, let's get started. Be sure to take a seat, relax, and grab some huevos and leche. We're going to talk about The Adventures of Puss in Boots. Now, whether or not you're a frequent follower of my content, whether it's through my art or videos, maybe even both, if you've seen my Shrek deep dive miniseries, especially my Puss deep dive, not only did I talk about the films at length, but also my history with those films, at least the Puss ones. Back in the day, I used to have a deep attachment to the 2011 Puss film, as it was one of those animated films that my old school friend and I would talk about and even reenact the scenes from. Flash forward to the release of The Last Wish. While it wasn't a film that I was hyped for, but a film that I had to check out at some point, it was a film where I would consider to be the definitive Puss in Boots film ever. Now, it's one thing to be familiar with Puss in Boots due to Shrek and how we've been growing up with him for 2 decades now, but the Puss spin-off Duology to me is where I show more of my love, interest, and appreciation for Puss as a character than just being the comic relief side character. Nothing wrong with the latter by any means, but I never put in a lot of thought about Puss getting his own film as a kid, and hey, Puss being the comic relief and this overall adorable kitty cat was something that I was able to understand when I was little. And when it comes to online and fandom spaces regarding Shrek, my presence in those spaces are mostly stemmed from the cat, especially around the time of the Last Wishes release, and it's all thanks to him. So you can say that I am technically part of the Shrek fandom, but I have a deep devotion for Cat in Shoes the most. So you might be wondering, where does the adventures of Puss in Boots come into play for me? Well, it wasn't until late 2016 that I discovered the show's existence on Netflix, and during its run too. I remember the last time I ever got excited regarding Puss in Boots was back in the summer of 2014 when I discovered that Puss was getting a sequel that would be released in 2018, and before that film was even called The Last Wish, it was called 9 Lives and 40 Thieves. I even briefly touched on this early version of Puss in Boots 2 in my Puss deep dive. So there I was, 16-year-old me using Netflix on my iPad mini and going on the kids section to watch whatever is available over there, let alone animated films, and Viola. That's when I learned that Puss in Boots has his own show. Now, television series for other DreamWorks films isn't anything new, especially when these shows are released in between with films that they previously released and working on new films for specific franchises, if you will. And this has happened to franchises such as Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon, and Madagascar, just to name a few. But for me personally, a television series for the Shrek franchise wasn't something that I put a lot of thought into back in the day, let alone for something regarding Puss in Boots. Now, I hate having to admit this, but when I first stumbled across the show on like the kids section menu on Netflix, I remember having a gripe for Dulcinea.
What did you say?
Now, before you throw your pitchforks at me, I was under the assumption that the show takes place after the 2011 film and before Shrek 2, and that Puss dumped Kitty's soft paws for another girl. That was until years later I found out that the show takes place before the 2011 film. And I'll dive into this more in the next segment, but listen, I'm a Kitty Softpaw stan at heart, and I've always been a sucker for the relationship between her and Puss. DreamWorks, I'm begging on my knees, please, 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 please invite me to their wedding, please.
Please, 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 please.
But Dulcinea? She's a competent character to say the very least, and she and Puss have decent chemistry, and they have their fair share of cute moments together. I do have one gripe for her and one gripe only, and that is her design. Like, what is Talking Angela doing here in the Shrek universe, and why is her head bigger than Puss's head? I'll touch on the animation, character designs, and visuals later, but overall, Dulcinea is an okay character. Now, did I ever get around watching the show while it was running on Netflix during the mid to late 2010s? No, I didn't, and if I ever wanted to look forward to anything regarding Puss in Boots during that time, it was for Puss in Boots 2. And considering the development hell that Puss 2 went through for years, I kinda question if this show was pretty much the Puss sequel despite the lack of updates and announcements regarding the film's development during the mid to late 2010s. I mean, the show ended in early 2018, and what else was supposed to happen in 2018? Puss in Boots 2, and did we ever get that in 2018? No! Now, it's one thing if the show was made to serve as filler, if you will, years after the release of the 2011 film and before the release of The Last Wish, but it could make one wonder if DreamWorks was still going to get a Puss sequel out after finishing the show at that point in time, and then years later after the sequel's initial 2018 release passed, has hope been lost and that we're never going to get a Puss in Boots 2? Even though I never watched the show during that period, I remember losing hope regarding the Puss sequel and don't know if DreamWorks was going to continue with it. Leading to the 2020s, The Last Wish was released in 2022, and it was well beloved by critics and the audience alike, myself included, which would eventually lead to further interest from those who apparently missed out on previous Puss lore that came out long ago, if you will, and again, has nothing to do with him being in the Shrek films prior to The Last Wish's release. And I guess you can say that this show is one of the few examples examples regarding early Puss lore. I actually remember this one time, the day I went out with my mom and my sister to go see The Last Wish with my friend and his parents. Moments after seeing the film, I caught a glimpse of my mom watching The Adventures of Puss in Boots on Netflix that night. I'm going to guess she was looking for the 2011 film so that maybe she could get well versed regarding the Puss stuff, if you will, which if you want to, that's fine, though I personally don't know if I could count on the show holding up to the Puss duology. I'll elaborate further on why I feel that way, but at the end of the day, I think in terms of like solid and emotional quality, you're definitely going to be better off with the Puss spin-off films more than the show. Now, that's not to say that the show has its fair share of heartfelt and decent moments, but I personally think that the two Puss films, especially The Last Wish, have better and compelling stories, writing, character arcs, emotional depth, and world building. So The Adventures of Puss in Boots is a television series that stars our favorite fearless hero himself and, well, the adventures that he surrounded himself in prior to the events of his 2011 film and Shrek 2. Produced by DreamWorks Animation Television and Bartle Entertainment, the show originally ran on Netflix for 6 seasons alongside an interactive special with a total of 78 episodes from 2015 to 2018. The show has since been removed in late 2023 and is currently available on Peacock since April 2024. The premise of the show sees Puss in Boots fighting off an endless legion of invaders to protect the previously hidden Spanish town of San Lorenzo after his actions unintentionally broke the spell that protected its legendary mystic treasure from the outside world. Subsequently, he must find a way to restore the protection spell that will cloak the town once more. So I'm going to try my best to explain and cover the overview of the show for each season, or at the very least, cover most of the important and interesting aspects of the show regarding lore, of its world building, characters, and story, just to name a few. The way I see it is this: protecting the town of San Lorenzo from bad guys and regaining the town's protection spell is like the main quest for Puss in Boots, whereas the various adventures and shenanigans that he and as well as the other characters in the show will get involved in are like the side quests, if you will. So for the time being, we're sticking with completing the main quest. Are you ready to hear me lore dump the fuck out of this show and lose my voice at some point? Going over season 1, think of it like it's the tutorial section of the show, if you will. It starts off with Puss in Boots at a thieves market, which by the way, these thieves feel like copy and pastes of Spy from Team Fortress 2, let's be real. And there, he encounters a white feline named Dulcinea who's being harassed by the thieves. Puss rescues her, helps her buy some silk, and becomes worried that she might get attacked on her way home, to the point he follows her. We then get to see her enter a hidden portal, and Puss follows suit, and once entering the portal, he enters a town that just so happens to be hidden for its treasure, San Lorenzo. Dulcinea gives Puss a tour of the town and its residents and treasure room, but when Puss steals a coin from the vault, he unintentionally breaks the spell that protects and cloaks San Lorenzo. Once the spell broke, a gang of thieves take over and Puss fights the thieves, and after fighting the thieves, he and Dulcinea take a stand to protect San Lorenzo from potential danger, as the former agrees to stay around until something can be found to restore the protection spell, and just like that, shenanigans and adventures ensue. In season 2, Puss gets into restoring the protection spell, and in order to do so, he has to retrieve every item and return them to the treasure house, and in order to find each item, he and Dulcinea have to retrieve a magical rod that works like a metal detector essentially, that can help navigate items among other things with the help and guidance of an evil sword. And while retrieving the rod, they meet and befriend a goat man named Uli. The items that have to be retrieved include a shiny orb owned by a mole king and the coin that Puss took from the treasure house that broke the town's protection spell. The protection spell ends up not working, with the creator of San Lorenzo, the Great Sino, arriving in town and banishing Puss for destroying the protection spell and dooming the town. But wait! Turns out the Great Sino is an enemy in disguise, a mouse named Bartholomew Fishflinger. Very interesting name, I know. And he also appeared in an earlier episode prior. So this mouse is disguising as the Great Sino as he's secretly working with someone else. And who's this someone else? That being Uli. And what did Uli do? Well, after using the last ingredient to finish the protection spell, the spell was actually made to summon the statue of the Blood Wolf in order to prepare the latter's arrival to San Lorenzo from the Netherworld. Therefore, Uli is a piece of shit. Season 3 starts off with Puss Puss being down in the slumps, if you will, as he believed he failed everyone and decides to reinvent himself, but not until for the Mole King and his girlfriend, who's a rabbit queen, to invade San Lorenzo with their armies, believing that Puss was responsible for the rise of the Blood Wolf statue. Puss proves himself guilty, though Uli blurts out that he's the one responsible and gets imprisoned by the Mole King, though it would be revealed by Uli that he knows a prophecy that can stop the Blood Wolf, and the prophecy is a very special cat, in which Puss believes that he's the great prophecy. So because of that, Puss needs to free Uli from the Mole King so that he can get more information from the former, though I'd argue that he should be in prison to begin with, but I'll get into that tangent later. So in order to get Uli back and prepare for the Blood Wolf's arrival, Puss gets the aid of his retired master El Guante Blanco, a golem who appeared in an earlier episode where he's going to destroy Puss, the Duchess, who also appeared earlier within the show and also used to date the alchemist Artifius, a magical sword who becomes El Guante's partner, and the Sphinx, who's yet another character who also appeared earlier within the show and also a character who has like a dope design that I adore. And there, Puss rounds them up to form his own Avenger squad. Now, to go on a tangent really quick, on one hand, it's great to see Puss form up a team in case there's danger on the way, let alone preparing for the Blood Wolf's arrival, but on the other hand, I don't think doing that was necessary in regards to saving Uli. Like, after Uli revealed that there's a prophecy that can stop the Blood Wolf, Puss could have been like, hey, actually, this goat man has more information that he can share and elaborate with us regarding the Blood Wolf, so can we, like, get him back to the Mole King? But alas, a fight between them ensued. But nonetheless, they get Uli back, and Uli then reveals that the Blood Wolf will return on, oh god, how do you say this word? Walpurgisnacht? Which is about 2 months. You know what, I'm just gonna play the clip from the show if that says anything.
Yes, he is coming on! Walpurgisnacht!
Walpurgisnacht? But that's like 2 months from now.
Yes, in 2 months he will come and destroy you all!
One item that can be used to defeat the Blood Wolf that was blurted out by Uli was the Crown of Souls, and in order to find the crown, Puss joins a gang of pirates in his search, which they successfully did. And to go off topic with our main quest really quick, there's an episode during the pirate arc where it involves mermaids and characters that also appeared earlier in the show, and basically Puss reunites with these mermaids and he learns that they're expecting their first child and that the father is the one carrying their baby. Somebody at DreamWorks was definitely living up their Empreg dream. Heading on to season 4, and probably my favorite season of this show, the Crown of Souls just so happened to be missing a gem. So Puss, Dulcinea, Artifius, and the Duchess head to a castle that's owned by 3 witch sisters. Over there, each of the 3 witches have a piece of the gem, and once they retrieve the pieces, it just so happens that there's a 4th missing piece, and there's a 4th witch sister that exists. And that 4th witch being the Duchess. So wanting to learn more about the crown, Dulcinea seeks out her favorite author, Miguel A. Adante, whose real name is Miguela, for more information, though Miguela would reveal that what she wrote about the crown in her book was information she stole from another book, and that the latter is located in a library of her old mansion, which is now owned by an aristocratic ogre named Tranche. Yes, there are ogres in this show, and they kinda look nothing like Shrek. They kinda look like either an Angry Birds pig or a VeggieTales character. VeggieTales in the House even. I mean, funny enough, that show was also produced by DreamWorks Television Division and Bartle Entertainment. Anyway, as Puss, Dulcinea, Uli, and Miguela have to deal with Tranche while looking for the book regarding the Crown of Souls, they were able to successfully acquire it, and in that book, it's revealed that the Crown of Souls must be used by the one from the Great Prophecy in conjunction with the Obelisk of Night. So to gather more information regarding the obelisk, Puss and his friends seek out the Sphinx twin sister Callista for help due to the Sphinx having a tattoo of a symbol that's reminiscent to the one on the obelisk pictured in the book. Callista reveals that the obelisk can be found in the Realm of Riches, which is a cave that is owned by a sheep named Angus, and in order to acquire the obelisk, Puss and his friends have to reunite Angus with his old friend Mary. Yeah, Mary had a little lamb, everybody. So once Angus and Mary are reunited, Angus gives Puss the obelisk that just so happened to be a figurine of the obelisk, and Angus reveals that the real one is located in San Lorenzo. So basically, basically, they traveled around the world to get information and find what they're looking for, just to be told that the actual thing is all the way back home. The oh my god I let out when watching that part will never not be funny to me. Upon their return to San Lorenzo, Puss and his friends discovered that El Moco, who's one of the recurring villains in this show, had taken over the town while they were out. After dealing with El Moco, they find the Obelisk of Night, which is located under the treasure house, and it just so happened that Dulcinea is the chosen one from the prophecy and not Puss. Once the obelisk is activated, the blood moon rises. Witness the blood moon's rise. I'm sorry, I had to. So anyway, the blood moon rises, Dulcinea disappears, and Uli, same voice actor by the way, Alan Tudyk. Yes, the guy who voiced King Candy, the Duke of Wesselton, Alistair Cray, Duke Weaselton, and Hey Hey, just to name a few. So Uli reveals that retrieving the Crown of Souls and activating the Obelisk of Night was the final piece of his plan regarding the Blood Wolf. The final piece for Phase 2, if you will. And that they would resurrect the Blood Wolf and allow his return from the Netherworld. Therefore, getting the crown and activating the obelisk wasn't done to defeat the Blood Wolf. And I just gotta ask, why are you still friends with him after he double-crossed you and your friends for the first time ever since summoning the Blood Wolf statue? Maybe getting more information out of him regarding the Blood Wolf is one thing, but why did you continue to leave him off the hook after freeing him from the Mole King? He should have been in that cage in the beginning after the first betrayal. Also, I'm beginning to notice how this conflict between Puss and Uli at this certain point of the show feels a bit reminiscent to the conflict between Puss and Humpty in the 2011 film. I'll elaborate it later, but I do want to be straightforward with my observation of how there might be some parallels here. So the blood moon opens up the portal of the Netherworld, and out comes a spawn of mini blood wolves, or as I like to call them, wolf bats, attacking the town and its citizens, and there we finally see the blood wolf free himself from his prison.
Free at last.
Also, Clancy motherfucking Brown, everybody. Oh wait, did I spoil that for you, or...
You are the one from the Great Prophecy?
Right off the bat, I love this character, and perhaps it could be my death bias kicking in, considering how the Blood Wolf and Death are wolf characters that are like the embodiment of fear and, well, death. But unlike Death, who's more fair and charitable as he makes sure that Puss should be enjoying the quality of life and valuing it, the Blood Wolf is vile and diabolical. And I ask you to also keep the Death and Blood Wolf parallels in mind for later, since there's going to be a lot to unpack here at this point. So the Blood Wolf tells Puss and the town citizens that their fear feeds him and will give him the power to destroy the world, despite Puss claiming he fears nothing. Okay. Uli greets the Blood Wolf just for him to not get any gratitude in return, I guess. I think he deserves it. It's what he deserves. Okay, what about Dulcinea? So we see her being chased by clones of her with black eyes in the realm of shades, which was created by the great mage Sino in preparation for the day the Blood Wolf would escape the Netherworld. Dulcinea just so happens to be talking to a tulpa, which is a kind of thought form conjured by a sorcerer, and one of the three spirits Sino created is a spirit named Orange. And while the battle between San Lorenzo and the Blood Wolf ensues, Orange gives Dulcinea an amulet that has the power to return her to the real world and send the Blood Wolf back to the realm. Only Dulcinea can activate the amulet by touching her forehead, and once it's activated, she'll only have a few seconds to use it. However, whoever uses the amulet to send the Blood Wolf in the realm will come as well and remain trapped there with him for eternity. Oh, and she has to get close enough to touch him with the amulet for it to work. The battle continues to ensue, and at one point, the Blood Wolf breaks Puss's sword and, oof. If this show is actually canon to the Shrek cinematic universe, then poor Puss in Boots, he could never escape the Lobos, let alone Lobos who are embodiments of fear and death. So anyway, Dulcinea comes back to the real world, Puss and his Avengers assemble, the fight continues, the Blood Wolf quotes Oppenheimer, and Dulcinea activates the amulet so that she can send the Blood Wolf to the realm of shades, but not until Uli shows up to take the amulet and finishing the job, as he makes a sacrifice and joins with the Blood Wolf in the realm. And we get to see Uli entertain the hell out of the Blood Wolf. And just like that, the statue is no more, Dulcinea is honored as a hero, and San Lorenzo is free from harm. Or is it? Season 5 follows a new cast of creatures coming out of the portal from the Netherworld after the battle with the Blood Wolf. Also, where did this little girl even come from? We've never seen her before in previous seasons. In the middle of the season, it's been revealed that a mysterious ruler called the Blind King is sending these creatures in an attempt to destroy San Lorenzo. Oh, remember that little orphan girl that I mentioned not too long ago? Well, with the help of Artifius's lens of truth, I'm sorry, I had to. I wonder how many Zelda-isms are going to be in this video. But anyway, with using these lens, it's revealed that this little girl, who's called Lil Pequeña, is a Shivra, which is a shape-changing fairy that was sent by the Blind King to gather information about San Lorenzo. She also has the power of altering the memories of everyone by making them remember her always having lived in the orphanage. There was even one point where she gave Puss the, "Oh, I was always there" treatment, if you will, though she adds on to ask him if he remembers encountering her when he first came to San Lorenzo, despite the fact that something like that never happened. Though for me to mention that bit hits close to home, as it reminded me of Humpty and Death doing that to Puss in 2 of his films. For anything regarding Puss spin-off media, if we ever do get a third Puss film, I hope that "I was always there" can be a running gag. So the Shivra alters everyone's memories, and forgetting Dulcinea. Dulcinea reminds Puss, Puss catches the Shivra and the power wears off, the Shivra escapes and heads to the Netherworld portal, and Puss and his friends follow suit. Once they enter the Netherworld, everybody but Puss gains superpowers. Yes, even that horse who now talks and screams. There they meet and team up with a sorceress named Hecate the Brownish, who was a royal advisor to the Netherworld's previous owner, the Tiny Queen. And due to his friends having powers and not having any, Puss starts to feel unwanted. Puss goes on his own, but not until he battles with these Cyclops Amazonians called the Zephalim. And after their fight, their leader takes Puss and nurtures him back to health. So the Zephalim gives 6 challenges for Puss to prove himself worthy of the tribe, if you will, and which he successfully achieves. And this tribe too shares the same goal in defeating the Blind King. Whereas Puss's friends, they head to the Blind King's hideout and take down his own Zephalim army just for them to be captured and taken to his throne room. And who exactly is the Blind King? Well, an evil clone of Puss in Boots who appeared in an episode early in this season where there were Puss clones coming out of the portal. When evil Puss first came to the Netherworld, his sight was taken away, but he can see through the eyes of the Netherworld, hence the eyeballs that you see in the background. And he pretty much knows where Puss and his friends were and what they were doing. A fight between the two Pusses ensues. Puss's friends and the king's army fight each other, and nearing defeat, Puss performs a ritual dance and summons a giant turtle. Evil Puss commands the turtle to destroy the Zephalim. Puss discovers that the Shivra has a mind control bracelet and removes it, and it's revealed that the Shivra is the Tiny Queen. The Tiny Queen commands the turtle to destroy Evil Puss, and after getting squashed, Evil Puss managed to escape by using magic chalk that was used to send the Puss clones back to their homes from an earlier episode. I mean, we're nearly done with this show. It's not like that this mofo is coming back anyway. And just like that, the Netherworld is saved, the portal is now blocked with the help of that turtle, and Puss and his friends died. Wait, why are there tombstones when they're actually alive? So in season 6, in the beginning, it's been revealed that Puss and his friends have been in the Netherworld for a year. The normal world presumed that they died. San Lorenzo is overrun by thieves and lmao in an attempt to destroy the town. Puss gets the town's citizens back by exchanging items with them, and Puss successfully defeats lmao. We get a few more shenanigans and adventures, same song and dance at this point, but that was until earthquakes have been happening in San Lorenzo. And in order to stop these earthquakes, Puss turns to the Sky Gods, characters who have also appeared in earlier seasons by the way, to stop these earthquakes, in which they successfully did, I guess. But not until Puss and Dulcinea gets word from Artifius that something weird is going on in the treasure house. The three go to the treasure house and get a message from the Tiny Queen with her warning Puss and his friends that the Netherworld portal is unstable and both worlds are getting closer, and if they collide, both worlds will be destroyed. She also shares that Puss's world has less than a day before it is destroyed forever. So with the world coming to an end, the only way that it can be prevented from coming to an end is if Puss and his friends can find the great mage Sino. And in order to find Sino, Dulcinea suggests that she and Puss should look for the other 2 tulpas. One of the orphans, a green goblin named Cleavel, happens to be the second tulpa, the green tulpa. One trance session later, after Cleavel asks Artifius if it's time, Cleavel leads Puss, Dulcinea, and Artifius to the Forbidden Citadel, which is guarded by a red Shivra. And many fights between the characters and Shivra later, the group successfully pass the trial and head to a chamber to find a man chained up. This man man is not Sino, but actually Artephius' evil twin. As Artephius pleads to Puss to not free the evil twin as the twin contradicts, and with the two arguing, they form the words of see and no. There, Puss learns that he and the group found Sino, but these two are halves of a whole. So Puss frees the evil twin, a battle ensues, and just as the evil twin uses his dark magic to finish the group off, Artephius suddenly attacks his twin with his own magical powers, leaving the twin terrified of him and attempts to destroy the twin, which became unsuccessful, though Artephius approaches the twin and embraces him, and there, in a flash of a light, the two are combined into one. Enter the great mage Sino. So after Sino reveals how the magic spell of San Lorenzo and his separation came to be, another earthquake happens, and knowing that something is very wrong, after learning that the Netherworld's portal has been open for months, Sino realizes that all is lost, it's too late, and the world is about to come to an end. And with that, Puss says that the past cannot be changed, only for Sino to suggest that it could be possible to do. And in order to do that, Puss, Dulcinea, and Sino return to San Lorenzo to search for a powerful artifact known as the Arcanum, an item that was used by Sino to defeat the Blood Wolf and send him to the Netherworld and to create San Lorenzo before splitting himself into two halves and hiding it. So as everyone in town is looking for the Arcanum, Dulcinea gets a vision of the Arcanum and learns that it's located at the Obelisk of Night. There, Sino warns the cats that the third Tulpa should appear to guard the Arcanum despite his lack of remembrance of what it is, which irritated the cats on how they weren't warned about it beforehand. So Sino chants an incantation to bring the Arcanum into his grasp, only for Dulcinea to be engulfed in red light and transformed in really cool armor, and there, we learn that she's the third Tulpa, the White Tulpa. And because Dulcinea is protecting the Arcanum in this situation, a battle between her and Puss ensues, despite Puss's reluctance to battle his love interest, if you will, and her sweet nature, but fighting her is the only way to save the world. During the battle, Dulcinea does kill Puss, but not until she regains her consciousness and regrets what she has done, and begs Sino to bring him back to life, though the Arcanum isn't strong enough to do so, but the only thing that's strong enough to bring Puss back to life is the power of love. Okay, but at the same time, I don't think I can be that mad. I do think it's cute. After Puss and Dulcinea embrace, it's revealed that Dulcinea is a very special Tulpa that has her own destiny to fulfill that hasn't been done yet. Another earthquake ensues, the world starts crumbling apart, and Sino casts a protection spell on San Lorenzo as the town starts floating around space. There, Sino tells Puss that he must go back in time and never enter the town due to his personality being so strong that it would clash with the magic of the protection spell and will inevitably cause the destruction of the world. Puss and the townsfolk exchange farewells, knowing their time together will never come to be, and Puss requests Sino to keep his memories of his time in San Lorenzo, which Sino obliges, as keeping those memories would help Puss become the hero the world needs. Once Puss disappears, Dulcinea asks a favor to Sino, and it then cuts to the moment from the very first episode where Dulcinea opens the hidden portal to San Lorenzo, and as Puss returns to that moment and is about to enter the portal, his memories cause him to return to the thieves' market. As he drinks his leche while reminiscing his time in the hidden town, he asks one of the thieves for another glass by calling him Pahuna, who's the bartender at San Lorenzo, mind you, by mistake, and Dulcinea appears behind Puss to correct him that it's Raoul. And just like that, the two cats ride off into the sunset together, off to find new adventures. And that's it. That's the show. And I'm going to need this time to be on voice rest. So, I'll be right back. Okay, hi! I am back from resting my voice. I absolutely lore dumped the fuck out of this show. So now that I covered everything regarding the show's story, let's go over the world building and characters. I will say the show at least did a solid take in expanding that in regards to staying faithful to the fairy tale world of the Shrek universe, if you will, but at the same time, I find them average compared to the characters and world building in the Shrek and Puss films. But nonetheless, I do appreciate that as the show progressed, we get to see more of the lore build-up aside from seeing the characters indulge in some random shenanigans and adventures. While the show's deep lore is what intrigues me the most, I had to remind myself that this show made for kids wasn't made to go fully in-depth with lore regarding characters, story, world building, and whatnot. Like, I wasn't expecting the show to be a deep show compared to other animated shows like Steven Universe, Over the Garden Wall, or Arcane, just to name a few. But I guess for me to mention like that is that as someone in their 20s watching this show, and years later after the show ran from 2015 to 2018, I wanted to see compelling and in-depth stories, world building, and characters, because that's what the Puss spin-off duology delivered the most in my opinion. Now, to give the show credit where it's due, I've had moments where I've been pulled in and chuckled a couple of times. My overall experience with this show is a decent one, and it's a harmless watch. And listen, I may be someone who's all for compelling and in-depth quality, but I shall also allow kids to have their share of fun in laughing with the cat and enjoying the adventures that he and his friends will get into. Alright, what about the characters? The orphans? They're alright, though I like Cleveland the most. The San Lorenzans? They're hit or miss. Oh, but this guy, Eames, oh my fucking god, he's so insufferable. Any of the other fairy tale characters, also hit or miss. The villains, yet again, hit or miss, except for the Blood Wolf. He was such a compelling character in this show. Again, it could be my death bias kicking in, but I find him more intriguing compared to the other show's villains. Now, what about Puss and Dulcinea? Starting off with Puss, I have to say that this version of Puss has to be my least favorite. And if there's something that I can't stand with Puss, it would be his overinflated ego and stubbornness. Now, his character does progress over time, aside from his heroism, selflessness, and the need to take accountability for his actions and mistakes throughout the show. I think where the quality of his character shines the most is where he acknowledges his time and memories of being in San Lorenzo can help him become a better hero the world needs in the very last episode. And while I don't think it's anywhere near his character progression in his spin-off films or even the Shrek films to an extent, him being self-centered and taking responsibility for his mistakes every now and then in the show can be competent at times, but it does feel repetitive and formulaic if anything. Moving on to Dulcinea, I think she's an okay character. While her reading book rhymes can also be competent yet formulaic, I will say that I could at least tolerate and empathize with her when dealing with Puss's shenanigans and bullshit. Also, in terms of the chemistry between Puss and Dulcinea, I like it. As much as I can appreciate that their romance wasn't forced, nor were there too much schmoopy and lovey-dovey stuff shoved upon them, at the same time, these two have a nice balance. Now, it's no surprise that I'm an absolute Kitty softpaw stanny, and I love Puss and Kitty to death. Yes, I know what I said. But you know what? I can't deny that Puss and Dulcinea are also cute together. A gripe that I do have with Dulcinea, however, is her design. And as much as I was able to follow her character arc throughout the entire show, and even though her design would grow on me over time, I still can't get over the fact that she looks like Talking Angela. What is Talking Angela doing in the Shrek universe? Not to mention, her head is bigger than Puss's head, and she's got smaller feet than Puss's feet, though to be completely fair, I have small feet too. Speaking of which, let's go over the animation, visuals, and character designs for a bit. Obviously, comparing the animation in this show to the animation in Puss's spin-off films, especially The Last Wish, feels like night and day, but nonetheless, the former feels competent enough. Not the worst thing to ever exist in animation, but I can at least dig it. Bartle Entertainment was involved in working on the show's animation, and I have mentioned Bartle before in previous videos as they have animated the Buck spin-off film and the 3 animated Wimpy Kid films that were released on Disney+. Also, yes, I'm aware that Ice Age 6 is going to happen. I will say the animation and visuals improved over time as the show progressed, so good job, Bartle. Regarding the character designs, now when comparing character models that were outsourced from the Shrek and Puss films to the show and character models that were made from scratch for the show, if you will, it does feel like night and day, to where it does feel clunky, like the show's characters feel like they belong from other pieces of media. As mentioned before, Dulcinea looks like Talking Angela, Clevel looks like she could be a Skylanders character or maybe even a Trolls character, Tranche looks like he could either be an Angry Birds pig or a VeggieTales character. It's his face that doesn't sit right with me. And the Blood Wolf, and as much as I love him, looks like he could be an enemy for the Titan/mutant era of Crash Bandicoot or Blight from Elden Ring. I'm not going to complain too much regarding him though, like I still think he's cool. Overall though, the show's character designs do feel hit or miss if anything. Oh yeah, remember Eames? Well, if you're thinking to yourself, his character design seems familiar, where have I seen him before? It's because he was the guy who fought Puss in the very beginning of the 2011 film. Again, it seems like the character models from the Shrek and Puss films were outsourced to Bartle when working on the show. Anyway, this leads me to my next segment. Does this show hold up to the Puss spin-off duology, and is this show canon to the Shrek cinematic universe? Now let's get one question out of the way before I get into my thoughts and opinions on whether or not if the adventures of Puss in Boots does hold up to the Puss and even the Shrek films. Is this show canon to the Shrek cinematic universe? To recap for a bit, the show does take place before the first Puss film and Shrek 2. Okay, the way the order works is that Puss gets his boots, we see the conflict between Puss and Humpty, the show happens, the first Puss film happens next, then Shrek 2, and the rest is history. I do remember back in 2023, this was like a month or two after seeing The Last Wish, I remember stumbling across a source from someone who worked on the show that claims that it's canon to the Shrekverse while another source claims that it's not. I decided to look for those sources again months later, but they seem to no longer be surface level, and who knows, maybe after this video I might have to find them again at some point. Now feel welcome to take it with a grain of salt, but I just felt like a response from someone who worked on the show confirming or denying that it's canon to the Shrekverse would at least be useful. Which leads to this sci-fi article that was published from last August that states that the show isn't considered canon to the events of the Shrek films. Again, take it for how you will, but I still think it would be nice to get word from any of the showrunners or producers of the show, and hey, I'll leave it up to you to decide on if this show is canon to the films or if this show is just its own thing, an alternate universe, if you will. And feel welcome to share that in the comments down below if you like. I'll also leave it up to you on whether or not if this show holds up to the Puss duology. For me personally, it does and does not. So basically, yes and no, or see and no. I'm so clever, and I didn't write that in my script, by the way. Now, yes, because there seems to be a few connections and parallels between the show and films that I can't help but make observations of, though because of me doing so, it's not my place to say that the show automatically does hold up to the Puss duology, nor is it canon. I'm just looking into it hypothetically, if you will. And no, because I feel like the show wouldn't be as impactful as the films. That sounds kind of harsh, I know. Again, I had a decent experience with the show, and it's subpar at its best. But in terms of wanting compelling and complex stories, world building, and character arcs, I feel more at home with the Puss films. The show being served as filler between the 2011 film and The Last Wish is one thing, but I don't know what kind of impact that the show would create for me afterwards. Aside from making and uploading this video, I guess. So there are about 4 points that I want to cover regarding this segment, which include potential and hypothetical connections, parallels, and theories about Puss's conflict with Uli versus Puss's conflict with Humpty, Puss's conflict with the Blood Wolf versus Puss's conflict with Death, Puss and Dulcinea's relationship versus Puss and Kitty's relationship, and Puss's legendary hero status. Starting off with the Uli and Humpty parallel first, remember how I mentioned that Puss and Uli's conflict during the last act of season 4 feels a bit reminiscent to Puss and Humpty's conflict in the 2011 film many minutes ago? So to elaborate further on my observation, both Uli and Humpty are characters that Puss put trust into at the start, then backstab him, Puss rekindles their relationships with while holding a grudge, then backstabs him again and redeem themselves in the end, though Uli has more ulterior motives than Humpty. Like, I don't think Humpty had malicious motives or intentions when he and Puss were friends in the orphanage, nor do I think there were any villainous motives in getting the magic beans and golden eggs at that point of their friendship. I like to think that them attempting to get the beans and eggs was more of like taking the rich and feeding the poor, if you will. Lucifer Incarnate, on the other hand, is a straight up backstabbing sussy baka.
Sussy baka.
I honestly thought that he, Puss, and Dulcinea would be like team friendship pre The Last Wish, but no! It seemed like he already had evil plans to begin with prior to even meeting Puss. Now, let's think of this theory in regards to the show being canon to the Shrek and Puss films. When it came to Puss and Uli's conflict during the Blood Wolf's resurrection in season 4, after Uli backstabbing Puss for the second time and redeeming himself by banishing the Blood Wolf and himself, you would think that Puss would have the time to reflect on Uli's selflessness and something to consider for other people that he would come across later in life, right? Probably, though I'd argue that Puss was more charitable to Humpty than Uli, considering that these two have known each other since childhood, whereas with Uli, these two never met until season 2 of the show. Again, it could be a possibility that what Uli had done could be a learning experience for Puss, and something that could be utilized for him when he reunites with Humpty later, but still, I'm betting my money more on the egg than not Valentino. This is a guy that Puss has known for years, and despite butting heads at times, Puss has always seen the good in Humpty, and why Puss and his friends still relied on Uli after he double-crossed them for the first time is beyond me. Again, I think having him as a reliable source regarding the Blood Wolf is one thing, but he should have been locked up in that cage with the Mole King to begin with. Also, if I can go off topic for a bit, I don't think the real villain in the first Puss film was Humpty or Jack and Jill. Who's the real villain in that film? The orphanage bullies. Up next is the Blood Wolf and Death parallel. I've stated their similarities and differences many minutes ago, but I'll bring it up anyway, as these two are both wolves that are embodiments of fear and death. The Blood Wolf is more vile and diabolical, while Death is fair and charitable, as, again, he makes sure that Puss should be enjoying the quality of life and valuing it. Let's get into theory mode once again. If there's a lesson to be made regarding the fight between the Blood Wolf and San Lorenzo, it's to face your own fears, and doing so can progress more courage in life. Though when it comes to the Blood Wolf, it's more of Puss and his friends getting ready to face a threat and protect their town than losing his 9 lives. Also, going a bit off topic again, but Puss died in the very last episode, so like, what life was he on here? First, third, sixth? I mean, the last wish says otherwise. But again, for me to cover these parallels and theories doesn't automatically mean that it's my place to say that the show is canon to the films. Now, could it be possible that Puss took facing his fears to heart? Probably, but as the years went on and leading to the last wish, I feel like his status as a legendary hero and big ego blinded him to where he believes that he's untouchable, he can't die, and well, he laughs at the face of death. Ha ha ha. So much so, he's become less considerate of his well-being in regards to him having 9 lives and losing 8 of them from the dangerous activities he engaged in. Leading to his first fight with the Grim Reaper's persona at the bar, that's where fear and his near-death experience starts to creep into Puss, to where he not only heads to retirement and putting the legend to rest, but also leaving his sword behind. Oh, that poor sword. You could never escape the Lobos. Though we would eventually see Puss change his ways in the film as he realizes that his legendary hero status made him feel lonely, miserable, and selfish, gets reminded of how Kitty and Perito helped him see the good and beauty in life during their moments together, gets the courage in standing his ground and facing death, and knows that he could never defeat him, but he won't stop fighting for his last life, and that he'll meet death again in the future. Should I repeat why Puss's character in his films feels more compelling to me, and that's where he shines the most compared to how he's depicted in the show, or can I pull the trigger? Also, I can't fully decipher that the Blood Wolf and Death do know each other or are connected with each other in any way, so I think I'll leave that up to you to decide. Though to say that both the Blood Wolf and Death are amazing antagonists would be an understatement. Now we get into a few theories regarding Puss and Dulcinea's relationship, and to a certain extent, Puss and Kitty's relationship. I feel like most people, myself included, have been duped into believing that Puss dumped Kitty softpaws for another girl. Let me remind you, this show takes place before the 2011 film in Shrek 2. Puss and Dulcinea's relationship was way before Kitty. Even though I've praised these two relationships for having chemistry and balance before, I think that's where these aspects lie in terms of similarities. Also, if you're going to start shipping wars in the comments section, please fucking don't. I may be a Puss and Kitty stan, but Puss and Dulcinea is great too. Therefore, I don't want to be near such discourse within a 10-foot pole. Okay, theory mode time. If there's one character trait that needs to be acknowledged when it comes to Puss in Boots, it's the fact that he's such a ladies' man. And this guy canonically fucks. I mean, that feline we see in the beginning of the 2011 film, I wouldn't be surprised if she and Puss banged. Okay, I'm sorry, I gotta stop acting horny on main. But anyway, I'd like to think that Dulcinea was Puss's first girlfriend and someone who genuinely cares for him and help him become a better person, or in this case, a better cat. Now, it's unclear what happened between the two during the events after the show and before the first Puss film. It could be possible that the two had a falling out, they fell out of love, and or aren't the same people like they used to be. Yeah, I know I am reading too much into it, I'm sorry. Regardless, I don't think we're ever going to know. Kitty, on the other hand, oof, okay, it's no secret that I love her. I think she's a great addition to the Shrek franchise, and I've always loved the relationship and chemistry between her and Puss. But when going over their romance in the first film, there's a lot of flirting and sexual tension more than Kitty being someone who genuinely cares for Puss and help him become a better person and be on a better path. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had my fair share of laughs with the flirting and sexual tension, and I'm not saying that Kitty doesn't care for Puss that much compared to how Dulcinea does. I think the only moments where Puss and Kitty have a heart-to-heart with each other during the first film would have to be when he comforted her when she talked about how she used to have claws and her owners declawing her, and how she found something more important than gold, which is referring to him. Also, add Kitty's owners as the other real villains in that film because I don't trust anyone who fucking declaws their cats. And just like that, Puss and Kitty started dating in the end, and that pretty much sums up their relationship in this film overall. But nonetheless, I remember shipping these two so hard back in the day. Now, when it came to the Shrek films, after the first Puss film and before The Last Wish, or even Santa Coloma, I'd like to think that Puss and Kitty had an on and off relationship, or were even on a break during that period. The reason why I say it like this is because of that one scene in Shrek the Third where Puss is saying goodbye to other felines before he, Shrek, and Donkey left far, far away to go find Artie, or even that one time he jumped on a black cat during Livin' La Vida Loca in Shrek 2. Leading to The Last Wish, well, prior to that, it seemed that Puss and Kitty continued their relationship despite Kitty's annoyance with Puss's massive ego and perhaps got engaged. That's when Santa Coloma happened, Puss left her at the altar, and Kitty stopped trusting anyone ever since. Now, leading to The Last Wish, Kitty is also on the look for the wishing star. She and Puss reunite and still resents him. They eventually rebuild their relationship during the course of their journey. Kitty berates Puss for his selfishness once reaching to the star and reveals she would have wished for someone she could trust. They reconcile after Puss's fight with Death, and she got that someone that she can trust, and their romance is rekindled in the end. So when's the wedding? And finally, Puss's status as a legendary hero. This one might be brief, but I'll try my best to get the point across. Now, I've made it clear that the way he's depicted in the show is my least favorite version of him, and him being self-centered and taking responsibility for his mistakes every now and then in the show can be competent yet formulaic, if anything. So let's get into theory mode one last time. After the bank robbery incident with Humpty and losing everything and going through a period of depression, I assume, I like to believe that the adventures that he had throughout the entirety of the show could be him not only seeking freedom but also coping the loss and depression that he went through after that incident. Yeah, I headcanon that Puss has depression. And maybe him being hailed as a hero during those adventures could make him feel like he's worthy of something after that incident and his ego getting to him, which, for better or worse, worked. And at the moment of him acknowledging his time and memories of being in San Lorenzo and how it can help him become a better hero the world needs in the very last episode, I feel like it was at that point where he could have his redemption arc despite the cool life that he has, which leads to his first film. Puss wants to restore his lost honor, and to do this, he must revisit his past demons, reunite and rekindle with old friends, and take responsibility for his actions, which he successfully did despite still being considered a fugitive. His name has been cleared, he's hailed forever a hero and legend, and his ego has grown more, so much so he becomes untouchable, that he believes he can't die, and he becomes less considerate of his well-being after losing 8 of his 9 lives. And after nearly losing his last life, he learns that his status as a legendary hero made him feel miserable, selfish, and lonely, and that one life is worth living and appreciating. Death could never be defeated, but this one life is worth fighting for. Puss in Boots truly lived a wild life. Okay, this is at the point of this video where things get sappy and sentimental, but having to write this bit in the script gave me impulsive thoughts and thinking that Puss might die in Shrek 5. Listen, I'm not trying to give DreamWorks any ideas here, but there's a part of me who doesn't want Puss to die, though the other part can sense that it might happen. Please, I can't let the impulsive thoughts win today. I initially wanted to go into this video by doing a quick review about this show in the hopes of keeping this video under 30 minutes or less, especially from the perspective of someone who's a diehard fan of the Puss spin-off duology and has never watched this show until this point. But the more I covered about this show, the more I dove into the show's lore and creating hypothetical connections between it and the films. I felt like I did another essay report regarding Puss in Boots again. Maybe let's hope that this one might be better than my Puss deep dive. So just to reiterate, The Adventures of Puss in Boots is a decent show, and it's a harmless watch. It's like watching a Saturday morning cartoon featuring Puss in Boots. Though I don't know if the show could hold up some kind of impact the same way the Puss spin-off duology did. Again, it was an enjoyable show, but I don't think it would be a show that has any rewatchability value. If you want to get yourselves a good laugh, then this show might be for you. Though if you're someone who wants compelling and substantial stories, characters, and world building, just like the movies did, then maybe the show might not be for you. But unless you're someone who wants to look into the show's lore more and create your own theories and connections to the films like I did, then I think that's great too. Go on right ahead. I don't expect my video to be the end-all be-all regarding the connections, theories, and even analyses I made for the show and films, so if you like, I implore you all to take up the task and see what you can bring to the table. Feel welcome to share your own theories and connections. Share things that I never mentioned in this video, you name it. And I think that's where I want to end the discussion for today. But before we finish the video, let's do a quick art palette cleanser. Thematically, it's still Puss in Boots, except for the fact that this drawing has nothing to do with the show, but I want to talk about it anyway, as it was a drawing that I had in the back burner since 2023, and I finally got around drawing it, as it's a piece based off of the zoomed out shot of Puss and Death clashing into each other during their battle in the last act of the film, a la Sonic Adventure 2 style. I'm sorry, but you can't convince me that this shot from the movie is kinda giving Sonic and Shadow in Sonic Adventure 2. And funny enough, the week I posted that drawing, which was a couple months ago, was the week Sonic 3 came out. And if the anatomy and quality looks a bit janky, I was trying to get rid of my art block at the time I made that drawing, but at the end of the day, it's the thought that counts. I did have a good time drawing that though. With all that said and done, thank you so much for watching this entire video. I know that this one was a lengthy one, but whatever happens to this video happens. If you like this video, feel welcome to hit the like button. If you aren't subscribed to the channel yet, feel welcome to subscribe if you wish. Be sure to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a single upload from this channel. Don't forget to check out my other social media platforms in the description below. Feel welcome to share this video and let me know in the comments down below on everything that's been discussed in this video. Have you heard about The Adventures of Puss in Boots before this video? Have you seen the show? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Also, let me know in the comments down below. That's the end of the video. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. Drink some water, stay safe, please be kind to each other, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Goodbye for now. Oh wait, one more thing. If this video gets 100 likes, I'll draw Kitty Softpaws and Dulcinea together. I'll draw Puss and Buck from Ice Age together for 200 likes. I'll draw Death and the Blood Wolf together for 300 likes. Oh yeah, speaking of Buck, I plan on making a video where I cover how 2 spin-off films that were released in 2022 centered around a fan favorite side character from a huge franchise, and how one failed yet the other succeeded. Can you guess which films that I'll be talking about? Stay tuned for that video if you're interested for more, and for more information, check out my community tab on my channel. Okay, goodbye for real this time. I'll see you soon.